Welcome back to the call up. We've got a fun one today. We have all MiLB first half team. I'm Aram Layton. He's Jack McMullen. Before we get into that, because there's a trillion names, by the way, and I think it's actually harder, Jack, to pinpoint the first half, like first team, because there's so many players that are performing. Whereas over the course of 140 games or so, like it starts to weed out maybe some of the players that were standing on their head for the first half. I still think it's really hard at the end of the year, but I feel like the first half is even harder. And then before I forget, we're going to talk about David Festa's debut for the Twins coming up tomorrow. But I don't know. What did you think? You really led the charge here on putting the names together. I feel like the first half is a larger pool of names, and we're naturally just not going to be able to get to everybody because it's not as many.
Yeah, because and not trying to be overwhelmingly negative, but there are guys that I don't believe in that are on the first team.
There not as many games. I should clarify. It's not as many games to weed them out.
Right. There are guys that I don't think are going to be great major leaguers that are on this list, and that's no indictment on them. It's just hey, you're a non-prospect that's having a great first half of the season, and the essence of this, what made me pluck their names was you are the best performer statistically at your position in minor league baseball, or you are one of the best performers. And it's not prospect pedigree, and we're factoring in this guy being 20-year-old in AA. We did a little bit of that for sure, but if a 24-year-old is kicking tail in high A and he's walking 80 or punching out 87 and walking 6, you're going to be there. You're totally going to be in this, all first half team. So yeah, there are guys that I'm not buying in terms of being really good major leaguers that have a sub-2 ERA or OPSing well over 900 that are on this team. And it's listen, we want to give shine to the minor leagues.
Yeah.
And these are the best performers of the minor leagues.
They deserve recognition, right? I think even more so too, because it's everyone's always talking about the prospects, but these guys they're playing baseball every single day or every fifth day if they're pitchers, and they're performing at a high level against some of the players that we talk about a lot more and give a lot more airtime to. So, they deserve some recognition. And beyond that though, how often are there guys that we say, oh, I don't know if he's much of a prospect, and he's 24 in high A, and then he keeps doing what he was doing and as a 24-year-old in AA or 25-year-old in AA, and then all of a sudden he's debuting and it's James Outman or something like that, right? I know that's an extreme example, and he had some prospect pedigree with him, but I do think that it's worth noting. I think Davis Schneider would be an even better example of that, of sometimes it just never stops. And so you might as well get some of these names on your radar. A guy that has always had prospect intrigue, especially over the last couple of years, has been David Festa. And I feel like now we're kind of seeing the final version of him, at least as a prospect. I'm sure there'll be some maturation at the big league level. But the Twins right-hander, we talked about him when we did the Twins top prospect list, and we just wanted to touch on this briefly before we get into the all-MiLB team. Festa is going to make his big league debut on Thursday. And some of you might be listening to this on Thursday. It's recorded on a Wednesday afternoon. We've been waiting for this because, I think with some of the other arms, Louis Varland, Chris Paddock, just not doing what you were hoping to see from them. Festa, we've talked about, fastball is better. He's sitting 95.5, but it's more induced vertical break, just better characteristics overall. The command is way better. The strike rate's up about 6-7% on the fastball. That the cutterish slider that he throws is a weapon, and that's always been a weapon. But now a better fastball allows him to not have to lean on that so much and be so cutter slider heavy. And then the changeup has been there for him too, and that pitch has flashed. But now it's there from a consistency standpoint. That pitch has been nasty for hitters as well. So he's got 3 big league pitches now, Jack, and beyond that, he's commanding pretty well. I'm curious, what is your move the goalposts walk rate now for AAA guys? Because there's usually, anytime I see anything get above 9%, at that point, so I'd say, okay, that's teetering on high. David Festa's at 9.7%, but I feel like when you adjust for ABS and in AAA, that's the new 8% probably at another level.
Probably, maybe, but it might also be the new 7.5%. I kind of look at it in terms of per 9. So I think 3 walks per 9 is palatable for a starter. At the AAA level with ABS, with the full ABS games coming for half-year starts, I kind of viewed 3.5 as a line that was acceptable, where it's okay, if you're, 3.6, it's it's all right. That's towing the line. Once you get to 4, I start to get a little concerned. But I don't think that this guy, like, you should take him in as somebody with command issues in the slightest. And there are like, it's kind of uniform across the board. When a guy gets up to the major leagues, unless they are pitching timid, and I hope that Festa doesn't, like, the walk rate is not going to increase from AAA. It's going to be the highest that you see in AAA. And now with the challenge system, I'm excited to see, kind of how that all shakes out over the second half, with the challenge system being in play full time. But yeah, like I don't think that it's anything to worry about if he's walking 9.7% of hitters.
Well, and that's also over the course of the season. I think they were kind of waiting for this stretch that he has had where over his last 5 starts, 35 strikeouts, 5 walks. That's a 5% walk rate, a 34% K rate. And the fastball, again, trusting it. But I think that the thing that I'm looking at when he makes his big league debut is how much reliance is on that slider. Because we saw him, in spring training, it was like all he was throwing. This year, it's been more, okay, that fastball and the changeup are pitches that I can get whiffs with too, and command. If he starts to get into a snag and then leans on the slider too much again, I think that's when that'll be his version of nibbling, I think. But right now, I feel like if you're David Festa, you got to be really confident in your 3-pitch mix because it's been playing so well. And I think he's going to get up there and have some success. I really do. Whether it's in the first start or not, I do think that has a chance to grab onto a rotation spot here if they allow him to. And not go anywhere, because I do think that 3-pitch mix and the command now where it's at, it profiles really well on the back end of a rotation with room for, I think, a little bit more.
Yeah, I love it. I'm excited to see, obviously, like, the unfortunate news is Chris Paddock hitting the shelf with shoulder inflammation, I think it was. So you have no idea for a guy that was coming off Tommy John, like dealing with a shoulder thing now. You don't know how long that's going to be, but they've kind of struck gold with Simeon Woods Richardson. And just when I thought the blow up was here, he turns in 2 really good starts after that start in Oakland. And I mean, this guy's rocking a 3.2 right now. And we're not asking David Festa to, spin him a 3.2, but like, I was expecting Simeon Woods Richardson to get up and have an ERA over 5, and he was going to shuttle back to St. Paul. So I've been wrong about a twin starter before this year. I'm not projecting bad on Festa, but like, I'm excited to possibly be pleasantly surprised that he, sticks around and is better than even passable.
I think he's going to be solid, and I'm excited to see that. But we'll jump into the all MiLB team here. And if you're on YouTube, you can follow along with us. Of course, we've got the article, which is live on justbaseball.com. You can follow along with that in the episode description if you're on the go, but able to read along. And of course, if you want to check that out later, you can find that on our website. But we'll go position by position. And of course, it starts with the catcher. And the catcher is a guy that we talked about recently, a guy that we got to see up close and personal. And we had our takeaways. Moises Ballesteros, Chicago Cubs. Offensively, I mean, there's little to question here. Guy slashing 307, 372, 509, 12 doubles, 10 homers, 44 driven in, a 154 WRC plus. What's amazing is we keep hearing guys talk about how big the jump is to trips. And meanwhile, Ballesteros, no one told him about that, I guess. The second he got there, it was just easy. Whether it was from a power perspective, the way he was commanding his ABs, just slapping the ball around too for base hits. It's all about where the glove comes and how far that comes along. But when we're doing, these all MiLB teams, we're not looking at like who's stealing the most strikes. And of course, if you're going into the run game better, that could give you an edge. But Ballesteros has just been, I think, the best offensive catcher in the minor leagues.
Yeah, I think so, and that's why we put him here. The honorable mentions, there were 2 Yankees and 2 Red Sox: Ben Rice, Augustine Ramirez, and then Kyle Teal and Mickey Gasper. Mickey Gasper, kind of a guy that has like climbed level by level. Really no prospect intrigue there. I think was drafted in 17. But Kyle Teal is like really the guy with prospect intrigue here. And Augustine Ramirez just got up to AAA too. So Rice and Ramirez are 2 guys to watch in the Yankee organization. But yeah, Ballesteros was, I think, the most well-rounded offensive catcher. And that's kind of why I plucked him here.
Yeah. And just to touch on Kyle Teal, you talk about just what an offensive output from him as well. And I think Ballesteros getting the nod, also just already getting brought up to AAA and doing it at that level a little bit as well. And that's where maybe if you have 2 guys that are right on the edge, because I mean, Kyle Teal's 311, 402, 484, but he's 22 and double, and we got a guy in Ballesteros who's doing it between double and triple. And also, it's worth noting that in the Southern League, it is we talked about how hard it is to slug out there. To be slugging 500 between the Southern League and now AAA, very, very impressive. But I do want to say that Kyle Teal had to be right there. Ben Rice also. I mean, seeing him swing it now at the big league level is so, so cool. And just doing it. They don't even need him to catch, right? Just go play first base for us and swing it for the Yankees. And he's been doing that. And then Agustin Ramirez, as you mentioned, like when we did the Yankee system last year, he was a guy that from a batted ball perspective, it was some of the more intriguing I'd seen from a guy that's not a top 100 prospect. But I just couldn't talk myself into it because there's some questions behind the dish. The swing was so flat. I'm like, okay, is that going to result in the power that, you want to see, especially from a guy that may not stick behind the dish? 108 mile per hour, 90th percentile exit velocity. And now finally we're seeing him elevate a little bit more. It's still kind of a flat swing, but he's elevating a little bit more. And the result is 16 home runs. So he looks like he could be an offensive monster as well. And at the very least, like a lefty masher platoon type of bat who catches a little bit, plays first base a little bit. But it's been fun to watch him. He has struggled mightily since getting up to AAA, though. It is worth noting. So kind of validating what a lot of players are saying. He's just 22, but since he's gotten up there for a handful of games, I think he had a hit in the first game, and he hasn't picked up a hit in the 4 following that. So making that adjustment to the more advanced pitching.
Yeah, is your vote Teal or Ballesteros?
I lean Ballesteros for the Southern League slug reasons. I think that's where if it's neck and neck, the age aspect kind of pushes him over the top. But I think between the fact that he's doing it in one of the worst offensive leagues in the minor leagues right now, I think the worst, and he did it with a little bit of AAA experience as well. As a younger player, I think you got to go Ballesteros over Teal.
I feel validated.
You want to walk us through these then? You want to go to first base?
No, you got it.
You want me to? All right, sweet. Deyvison De Los Santos. I mean, this was probably your easiest choice, I'd imagine, from the Arizona Diamondbacks. I mean, what he is doing, and we talked about him as a sell high guy, yes. That's because he's hitting 346, 399, 654, right? Like, it's not sell high because he's going to fall off a cliff. It's sell high because right now he's swinging it like one of the best hitters in the minor leagues. 15 doubles, 21 homers, a 172 WRC plus. De Los Santos is really just point blank been one of the best hitters in minor league baseball. Yes, he's doing it in the PCL, but that's where you look at the WRC plus, which is quite strong there. And he was swinging it better at the AA level as well. So this is a dude that clearly has figured out how to make it work for him at this level. I have some concerns about how that translates at the big league level, but clearly he's going to have a big league role, whether it fully translates or not, because he hits the ball as hard as anybody really in the minor leagues. He makes way more contact than you'd expect for a guy that chases as much as he does. And I mean, when you smack the ball hard all over the yard, looks like the slash line that De Los Santos is giving you. He kind of breaks my brain a little bit, man. I can't lie. But sometimes you just got to look at the numbers and tip your cap.
Yeah, and it was really hard not having Xavier Isaac be on the first team. Like, that was very, very difficult for us, I think. But I mean, at the end of the day, like a 172 WRC plus out in, moon landing type area is, undeniable. And at the end of the day, man, like 21 homers hitting 346, like that has to be the pick here. I just wish they tried Deyvison at third base a little bit more, because like third base was kind of a reach for us, but like, I don't know, man. Xavier Isaac, Trey Morgan being left off was tough. Also, CJ Kayfus with Cleveland is at the top of like every single stat query that you do in minor league baseball. So first base was loaded, obviously tons of offensive production, but Deyvison was certainly the answer there. Other guys, John Kency Noel, Spencer Horwitz, who's up with Toronto, but he was killing in Buffalo and walking a ton again.
Killing in the show too now.
I know. And then Tyler Locklear, who's also a big leaguer too, but those Rays were hard to leave off.
Yeah, Isaac also, unfortunately, has not played in 2 weeks. Don't know what it is. The classic minor league undisclosed injury. Hopefully nothing major. I did some digging to try to figure out what was going on. He took a swing and didn't look the most comfortable, but then he went back out in the field. And I tried to find like the last play that he was in on the field. It was a pop-up, and he catches the pop-up comfortably. And then it looked like he kind of grimaced, though, as he brought the ball down. So it looked like he maybe tried to go out there and play through something. And then when he went to just kind of catch this pop-up, there was a grimace there. And I don't think he came back out the next inning. So I don't know what it is. Hopefully they're just erring on the side of caution. The good news is it wasn't like there was a slide into a bag and ow, and then something's up. Like, it doesn't mean that it's not a bad injury, but it does at least make me feel like, okay, hopefully it's just a nag and they're being careful. But to the point of Isaac, like, he could have easily snuck his way in there, especially with the way he had been swinging it had he not hit the shelf, because up until missing the last 2 weeks, Isaac had a 1223 OPS over his last 31 games in high A, slashing 391, 467, 755. That's outrageous. Like, absolutely outrageous. So he was on track, maybe, if he didn't miss these 2 weeks, to potentially overtake Deyvison De Los Santos there. But again, a lot of really fun names. Trey Morgan, who we're going to have on the show next week. Finally, we're able to circle back and set that up. Very excited to talk with him. Another Tampa guy that's just been awesome. And then if Joaquin Noel had another few weeks, maybe he's playing his way into this conversation as well. So as you know, first baseman, they got a slug, and the ones in the minors who are, like, they're putting up some of the best numbers in the minor leagues.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Jumping into second base, a guy that I know you and I have talked about back and forth, just trying to figure out what the heck is going on in the best way possible. Yeah. Kristian Campbell, Boston Red Sox prospect, who has gone nuts since the season started. Crazy numbers in high A. I thought, like, okay, when he gets up to double, maybe he'll slow down a little bit. No. And we'll get to what he's doing in double in a moment, but let's just go over the cumulative numbers on the year. 58 games, 343, 448, 606, 19 doubles, 12 homers, 39 driven in, 5 of 7 in the stolen base department, which I know you love any bags being mixed in with power.
Yes.
189 WRC plus. Jack, like, this kind of ties right into what we were talking about earlier. Like, you just never know who's going to explode and burst onto the scene. And I'll be honest, I was not taking what he was doing in high A too seriously. Of course, I was noticing, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But there's a lot of guys whose performance is interesting. I see the swing. It's unorthodox. And I see a college guy performing at high A. I'm like, it might just be a hot stretch. It's becoming undeniable now.
He was good. Like, he was really good at Georgia Tech in his draft year. Last year when he was a junior, he hit 376 with a 1033 OPS. And it was like 4 homers. He wasn't swiping bags. He was in the ACC. Georgia Tech is viewed as a power, but they're not a national championship contender as it stands right now. And 4th round pick out of college, you have to see 3 months of success in order to truly have it validated. And he's taken 6 months of success and condensed it into about 58 games. And I'm like, what's going on here? But I mean, listen, when he's got a 3-hit day, and then he's got a 2-hit day, and then he's got a 2-hit day, and then he's got a 3-hit day, and he's like, oh, by the way, tripled his homer output compared to his draft year at Georgia Tech. I don't really understand, but we don't need to understand. We just need to appreciate the statistical achievements of these guys in the first half, and that's it.
Well, and he said you can shove it up your you-know-what about the double-A jump, because in 18 games in double, 420? 512, 710. I think I sent it to you. I know I texted you about him, but there was a home run yesterday that he hit that was just the epitome of, I have freakish bat speed and I can just put weird swings on balls that get out and backspin them. It was down, and his path is kind of weird, but it works. And he just generates so much whip that he almost swung down on a pitch down. And it inside out, it just backspinning at the same time to right center field, and just got out of there in a hurry. There's just a ridiculous amount of bat speed that he generates and torque. But it also, I feel like he starts closed. I feel like you could kind of blow him up inside, but he's so quick that you can't. And then even if you get it in on his hands, there's so much force being created that a ball in on his hands is still 90 miles per hour into shallow left field or shallow center field. So there's something here, and they're still trying to figure out where he's going to play defensively long term. I think second base is kind of if that's where he has to play, that's where he has to play. But he's a good athlete, so they're hoping he can play center. But we're talking about a 90th of 106.5. Wow. And again, you look at him, you'd think he'd strike out more. 24% K rate, 14% walk rate. It's just becoming so hard to count him out. And he doesn't turn 22 for another 2 days. So happy early birthday to Kristian Campbell.
And if he does this for another month in AA, now granted, it's like a very high bar that he set over 2 weeks, but he's done it over 2 weeks. If he had a crazy week and then he cooled off a little bit, I'd be like, okay, yeah, he found his match in AA and he's going to be there and he's a legit prospect moving forward. But if he keeps doing this for another month and we get to the, end of the 9-game homestand or road trip after the All-Star break, we could be talking Worcester with the guy that was drafted in the 4th round last year and not like an org guy thing when we're talking AAA. We're talking this is legit. This might be happening, and we'll see what happens in September.
He could pass York very quickly to that point, which I know is kind of the adjacent of what you were just saying. But it is definitely, I think one of the bigger surprises of the minor league season. And I mean, who knows what they'll decide to do and how they'll handle him, but it's really fun. Already popped to 114 this year too.
Wow.
Fun honorable mentions at this position as well.
Michael Arroyo with the Mariners. I know you don't love him, but at the end of the day, he is producing in a very, hitter friendly area in Modesto. Hao Lee, we talked about him and how hot he's been. Notable free agent Coco Montes, who was released from his contract with the Rockies. He was hitting, I think, 340 in Albuquerque, 336.
I think it was 335. And since the beginning of last year, he's got 31 pumps in 170 something games. A player like that doesn't just get released. There'll be more on that in the coming days,
I'm sure. Devin Mann is a guy that I know Kansas City's kind of sputtering offensively right now. If they're looking for a little injection of life, one guy is an honorable mention at third base that just got the call, but Devin Mann could be not far behind. And that's an older guy in AAA. I think he's 27, 28 years old. And then James Triantos, he's hitting 312. He's a high efficiency base stealer right now. There's no pop with him. I for some reason side with the pop. And I think that might just make all the numbers look a little bit better and makes the WRC plus look a little bit better and make the OPS look a little bit better, make a lot of bit better. But I view what Kristian Campbell is doing as more valuable to the Boston Red Sox than what James Triantos is doing is valuable to the Chicago Cubs.
And I think it's just more staggering. It's not just what he's doing. It's how he's doing it. Even the hits, it's crazy EVs. He's just lighting it up. I will say with Triantos, again, highlighting the fact that he's in a league where the slug is way down, and he's already a guy that we're kind of wanting to see the power. I do think he's heading in the right direction there. If you're looking at him in a vacuum, 6 home runs this year. I know it's kind of small victories, but 17 extra base hits otherwise, so a total of 23. And it's been something that I think as the years progressed, he has really been swinging it better and better and better. But I think it was a no-brainer here with Kristian Campbell. I think you nailed it there. Although if you give Hao Lee a little bit more time with the way he's swinging it, he might be able to close that gap a little bit. But yeah, this is a fun group of players. But I think kind of shows you second base is a unique position when it comes to the prospect allure, because a lot of the time it's usually guys that are maybe not top guys in their system and really got a hit to get on radars.
Yeah.
Third base. Talk about a guy that wasn't on many radars coming into this year. Charles McAdoo, Pittsburgh Pirates. Between high A and double A. You think you might see this guy this year, by the way?
I think so, but who is he? I mean,
we'll get into that in a second. I mean, honestly, I know you know who he is because you're tapped into the Pirate system as well as anyone. I'll be honest, not on my radar going into this year. Couldn't tell you much about McAdoo, but when someone's slashing 332, 414, 574 with 31 extra base hits, 14 to 17 in the stolen base department, 170 WRC plus. Jack, who is Charles McAdoo and why is he going to be an Indianapolis Indian at some point this year?
Well, he's 22 years and 112 days old. He's from Walnut Creek, California. He's 6'1", 210, and was drafted by the Pirates in the 13th round last year out of San Jose State. What? Who are you, Charles McAdoo? But last year, during his draft year at San Jose State, he hit 325. He had 10 homers, but it was in the Mountain West. What are you really valuing here? And, for some reason, he was just a guy that slipped all the way to the 13th round. And he was good last year in Bradenton, 28 games, hit 300, had a 923 OPS, and was an efficient base stealer now. But now that he's getting run, he's this blend of power and speed and bat to ball. Like, I don't know how he is defensively at third base, but I mean, the Pirates are looking for offensive prospects, and they just got a pop-up prospect out of nowhere.
This is why I love where the draft is headed, because there's just so much talent all around baseball now, and whether it's high school, college, whatever it is. And there's so many of these like 12th, 13th round type guys that, especially with the way the bonus pools work, where you can go a little bit over in that range, like Zaire Hope, I'm thinking of. And like now we see McAdoo, and Ryan Clifford was another one of those guys. Like there's just so many pop-ups in that realm, and they don't even have to just be pitchers. McAdoo in his first Double-A game, 2 hits, a double, a homer. He's homered in 2 of his first 3 Double-A games. And in the game that he actually didn't homer, which was yesterday, it was an 0 for 3. He still walked twice. So, I mean, this guy's dialed. What do you think the 90th is? 90th percentile exit velocity is for this guy?
I'm sure he hits the shit out of it, because like he's got a full beard, and like, I mean, give me a 106.
Very close. And I think if you shot any higher than that, it would have been overly ambitious. I would have never shot higher than that. It's 107.
Wow.
And for like clarity, MLB average is like 104.5, and maybe even a little bit less than that actually this year. And that's also MLB guys, like full grown men, whatever. I'd say the minor league average, you know, at each of these levels is generally like 102, 102.5. 107 is plus to almost plus raw. Like that's 65 grade raw power, maybe even a little bit more than that. And this guy's 22 and really in his first taste of pro ball. And like, I mean, that's just remarkable stuff. And that's why I love doing this, is because like I'm sure we would have got to Charles McAdoo at some point, but doing these kinds of episodes kind of puts us on the path of being able to really highlight guys that, I mean, I know I wasn't expecting this from this year. Really didn't really even know who he was. And I know, I mean, even in the Pirate system, probably wasn't on the top of your radar of guys you were thinking, oh, with a good start this year, this guy can get to Indy. I don't know if that was one of the names you were thinking of when you were thinking of those candidates.
No, not the slightest. I also had no idea who Otto Kemp was before this. He turns 25 in September, and he just got to Double-A. But like, he last year split the year between low A and high A as a 23-year-old. He spent 4 years at Point Loma Nazarene. That's not a D1. I don't know what that is. But Otto Kemp, 57 games, 5 in low A, 41 in high A, 11 in Double-A at this point, hitting 322 with a 996 OPS, and he's 12 for 15 in the stolen base department. So again, like, this is just the time where you can shout out guys that, hey, may never make it. McAdoo is looking the part. Kemp was an org guy that just happens to have 1,000 OPS this year. But like, you know, Otto Kemp and Kobe Mayo are never going to go in the same sentence, except for a list like this.
Pacific West Conference Division II, Point Loma Nazarene Sea Lions. They ran that.
Where is it? California?
Yes. This past year, they ran that conference 46 and 13. Good program over there.
But they were 11 and 21 in 2021.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
man. Seriously? I mean, so 996 OPS. Another guy that's putting up plus EVs though. So it might be like the Weston Wilson kit here. Like,
right.
He's gonna get up. He could get up to the big leagues and you know, just mash his way there. Whether there's a true role for him or not. Like, sometimes these grinders, they just mash their way up there, and I'm glad to see. I always love guys like Otto Kemp in those stories. Also, I hope his favorite number is 9, born on 9/9/1999.
Wow, that's pretty good. I mean, kind of same deal as CJ Alexander, right? Who just got up for his big league debut. Blaze Alexander's brother, if I'm not mistaken. But
I didn't even know that.
I think so. Yeah, they've been tweeting like about each other a lot. I think they're brothers. But 56 games with Omaha. This guy was hitting 323 with 16 doubles and 9 homers. Like, 27-year-old figured out a way to get there and got there. So, like, hey, credit to him. Jace Young, too good to ignore there. Alex Mooney, do you have anything on him? I know we've talked about Ben Williamson in the Mariners organization for a little bit, but Mooney, like, again, he's a name that has popped up a lot. And I'm like, I don't know who you are, and I keep forgetting to ask Aram who he is.
Yeah, I think we talked about it when we were doing like buy or sell hot starts, and I sold it. I still kind of am selling it, but it has been fun to see Mooney doing his thing. I I mean, I'm very surprised by what he's doing. They've moved him all over the diamond too, and I think that like utility outlook is probably the best and makes sense given what org he's in. But yeah, I think he's had some crazy batted ball luck of late, but or just through the first part of the season. But you know what? He's been swinging it well.
Quick interruption. John Kensey Noel's up for his major league debut.
Ooh, let's go.
Big win. All right.
They're trying to strike while they're hot. I love that.
This is awesome. All right. Speaking of Guardians, but we can keep moving there. But John Kensey Noel is up. I just got the ping notification. So we're living the dream.
Quickly on Mayo, back off the IL after that little rib issue where he ran into like the wall or the dugout or whatever it may have been. Since he's come back, just picked up right where he left off in AAA. And I mean, this is another guy that's going to find a way to just get an opportunity there. They'll move someone aside. I don't know what. Yeah. 6 games since he's returned, only 3 strikeouts in 27 plate appearances. Dude. 2 home runs. He's slashing 375, 444, 708. So now on the season, the 22-year-old has an OPS of 1,048. I think it's 100% McAdoo for first team because he's hitting 332 and
he's played. He's played the whole year.
He's played more. But I think that if Mayo didn't miss some time here, it would have been really close. We would have had a conversation about it because he has been that damn good. Kobe Mayo's slugging 665, dude.
Yeah.
In AAA.
Yeah.
Slugging 665. Insane.
I'm taking him over pretty much every hitter in minor league baseball.
I don't think that's crazy. Yeah, just hitter. Yeah, just a hitter. Like if you had to call somebody up to DH, I mean, like you could say Caminero, but at this point, like, what can Caminero do that Kobe Mayo can't?
No, I mean, like you give me the pickings, and it's like, hey, you need, you can add one bat for the rest of the season, and you can pluck anybody in the minor leagues. Why is the answer not Mayo right now?
James Wood would be the only maybe, but a lot of his value comes from other aspects as well.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think it's pretty fair because that guy's making any ballpark look small. It is fun to watch. I really hope he gets a shot to put that Orioles team over the top too. He's my favorite, like late season call up, guy stands on his head type of player. And as you know, if you want to check out that interview we did with him, he's built for it mentally. I don't think the lights will be too bright for Kobe Mayo. I don't think that's a worry at all.
No.
Shortstop. I think this one was relatively easy, right? I mean, it's just deciding Carson Williams because, like I said, with catcher, we weren't looking as much at the defense, even across every position. We're not looking as much at the defense. But when you are one of the best defensive shortstops in the minor leagues and you also happen to be slashing 287, 385, 32 with 11 homers, 19 to 22 in the stolen base department, 168 WRC plus in that Southern League that we keep referencing, that's the best shortstop so far in the minor leagues this year. Just no doubt about it.
Yeah, it wasn't tough. But it was one of those where like he was getting a little buried, like Shea Whitcomb, who's in Sugarland. I think he's a space cowboy. He's been balling out. So like, you kind of see, he pops up ahead of Carson Williams and a couple of notable queries. Marcelo Meyer was actually really popping up. And then Alex Freeland in the Dodgers organization. Freeland has climbed from Great Lakes, I think, to Double-A Tulsa at this point. Like those were the guys that were in the same ballpark as Carson. But the fact is, Carson Williams is very young in a very pitcher-friendly league. He's got a ton of prospect intrigue, and he's got as good of a glove there as anybody in minor league baseball. So, like, all of that baking into this, it did feel like a no-brainer at the end.
Jacob Wilson, if he doesn't get hurt and he's hitting 400 still, probably gets it, right? Like,
he's hitting 400.
Prospect just came back. And you know what he did in his first game back in AAA?
Probably 4 hits.
No, unfortunately, much worse. 2 for 3 with 2 walks. So he got on base 4 times.
Yeah.
Only got out once. But I mean, like, and him at the complex rehabbing, it must have been like playing fungo. And his last rehab game was 4 for 4 with 2 doubles.
So you know what he does? Like he is, I think less Arise because Arise is like mechanically beautiful. I think Wilson has a very good swing as well, but like, he gives me the vibe more so than others of backdoor wiffle ball. And you're like playing the competition of like, let's get the barrel on everything. it's like throw it anywhere. I'm gonna hit it.
Yes.
Like that kind of thing. That's Jacob Wilson to me.
100%. He just somehow hits it hard enough to get through.
Right.
457 if you include the complex for him. And you're saying, oh, well, how is he not in there? 33 games. So unfortunately, just you need to do it for a little bit more to qualify here. Braden Taylor playing enough games at shortstop to qualify, huh? Is that what was the cutoff there?
So cutoff there was like, if you're playing shortstop primary, I've got that. And
Okay.
Braden Taylor, I think is like over 40 games at short. Let me pull it up right here.
Which makes sense because we talked about like the buy sell thing, like the offensive output and the offensive profile at this point just doesn't look like a third baseman to me. To me, it looks more like a middle infielder. And if you want to take some pressure off the bat, get a guy that can play good second base, play a decent third, and then fill in at short at the very least. Aiden Miller slowed down a little bit since getting up to the high A level. Still love what I'm seeing from him offensively and the way that he commands at bats, the Phillies prospect. But I agree with the sense that he is not quite there. And as you mentioned, Meyer's been awesome as well, but just not slugging to the degree that I think like Carson's doing. And Carson just brings a little bit more to the table. So yeah. I thought Carson was kind of clearly ahead of these guys, but it's a really nice group, beyond that. And Alex Freeland's probably a guy that we got to dive into a little bit more in the coming episodes and give some more shine, because sometimes he's like lower level or even double-A performers that weren't on a ton of radars coming into the year in that Dodgers type of system get overlooked pretty quickly. And I mean, Freeland's been awesome. 955 OPS in 67 games so far this year.
Yeah. So Braden Taylor, I mean, think about what he did at TCU last year. Last year at TCU, played third for 60 games, played short for 10 games. Got to pro ball. He didn't play short a single game last year. This year, 23 games at third, 35 games at short. So he has been technically shortstop primary by a dozen games. So that's why I had him at short.
Yeah, no, that's valid. I was just surprised that I didn't even realize the defensive breakdown.
Yeah.
Makes sense, though, when you think about what they're trying to probably do there.
Right.
Outfield. I'm curious how difficult this was for you. James Wood, no-brainer. He gets the first spot.
Yeah.
Chandler Simpson, I think kind of a no-brainer, too, just because of what he's doing from like a just batting average, not striking out, stolen base standpoint. Lazaro Montes as well, just got the bump up to high A. That's where I think it gets interesting, because you have Kjerstad, Emmanuel Rodriguez, all the honorable mentions that you'll get to. But who was like the no-brainer for you here? And then maybe who are you kind of struggling with maybe to fit in there, or like, where were you teetering?
So two of them were no-brainers to me. Wood, with what he's doing at AAA, and like, hey, he played his way into the top prospect in baseball billing, and like that was clear. And if you play yourself into the number one prospect in baseball billing, you have to be on this list. Like,
yes, of course.
There's no doubt about it. Chandler Simpson was the other no-brainer to me, because at the end of the day, like, this guy's hitting 375 and has 53 stolen bases in 57 games. And we know he can hold his own in the outfield. So like that was one of those where, as simple as it sounds, the batting average, the on base, and the stolen bases, if that guy's giving me a WRC plus over 120, he's going to be here, and he's got a 148 WRC plus. And then we kind of got to the thought where it's like, do we have a DH? But Laz is playing a lot of right. So like that's kind of a cop-out. And Kjerstad was initially that guy. And I think you would have totally agreed with me there. But at the end of the day, like, Kjerstad's about to turn 26, and he's been between the big leagues and AAA. Montes doing this at 19 years old in full season ball, getting a bump to high A. Like, that was kind of the thing that broke it for me and broke the tie, like, advantage Montes. Emmanuel Rodriguez surely would have been this guy if he played 10 more games. He just got hurt.
Yeah. And have they disclosed what the injury is with him?
I didn't see anything.
So what's interesting with Emmanuel Rodriguez, no brainer would have been in there. You could argue he'd be right there as like the number one spot with James Wood. By the way, the numbers, Wood slashing 352, 464, 588, 13 homers, 13 doubles, 10 homers, 10 for 11 on stolen bases, and a 173 WRC plus. Since he came back from the hammy, picked up right where he left off too, which is amazing. And you mentioned Simpson's stats and Montes. I mean, a guy that big and powerful hitting 309 is wild. absolutely wild. And I think he's going to be better in high A because he's selective. And we've talked about it with players. Like they feel like if you have a good approach, it's easier in high A than low A because guys aren't spraying it nearly as much. So, I mean, Emmanuel Rodriguez definitely would have gotten in there. But I agree with the way this kind of shook out. You could make that Kjerstad case, but I do feel weird about guys that are kind of back and forth from the big leagues because when you're in the big leagues and then you go back to AAA, I got to imagine it's just a lot easier.
Yes.
When the ball just comes in a little bit different, you're probably a little bit more relaxed as well. It just seems like it's kind of comparing apples to oranges here, and I'd rather give the shine to the low A guy that hasn't been going back and forth nearly as much and hasn't played at the level multiple years. So that's where I guess we'll bake in some of that age aspect. Some of the other honorable mentions, though, I think a fun mixture of like not really like highly regarded prospects and then formerly highly regarded prospects and kind of everything in between.
Who is Henry Bolte with Oakland? Like he is, I know that you definitely have something on him. Hendrik Pinango, another guy that I know you've been really excited about and we've mentioned a couple times. Matthew Lugo is in Worcester right now. He was in AA and AAA, and Matthew Lugo is balling out as a Red Sox outfield farmhand. But and then of course your guy Griffin Conine, and Jonathan Rodriguez, like that rounds it out. I might as well just say everybody's name in the honorable mention. But Henry Bolte, like I know next to nothing about him, and he's a younger guy in high A, and he's really killing.
Yeah, I mean, big whiff concern, but he hedges that really well with only 20% chase. He was coming up for me a lot when I was going into this year on just like, batted ball queries and just kind of guys that are younger already putting up crazy EVs. 90th percentile of 108.5 as a 20-year-old.
And he can move.
He can move too. He's an athlete. The whiff is a concern. It's not off the charts egregious. It needs to get better. But it's not so bad that, you're not paying attention to him. And it seems to be getting better as the season has progressed. Bolte's definitely a name to watch. And probably if he's in another system is getting a little bit more shine than, being in the A system. Jay Allen, we've talked about him because Allen, I mean, we know he's talented. He's a multi-sport athlete, could have probably played collegiate basketball or football. I still have my concerns as to how it's going to play, at more challenging levels. And he's in the midst of a pretty good slump. That's where it's nice to get off to such a good start. He's 0 for his last 21.
Wow. And
the fact that you can be 0 for your last 21 and still have an 863 OPS, he's not striking out that much. What he brings to the table, speed and everything else wise. We talked about Jonathan Rodriguez too, because that guy's been killing in AAA. But I guess of course, Griff, always going to give Griff some shine. He's been awesome. I'm just waiting for the Marlins to clean house at the outfield and hopefully he gets a shot. But I mean, Griff's cut his strikeout rate by 10%. The power has always been there. He's hitting 285. Like that's insane. I don't think anybody ever expected that from him. So it's fun to see that, coming together for him. And Hendrik Pinango is a guy that we've talked about, like batted ball data wise. It's as good as anybody. It just has not translated until maybe this year. And so far this year, he's been really good, and he's starting to settle into AA, where they're hitting him in the heart of the order there in Tennessee. So it's definitely still just 22, a name to watch.
I want to go back to Laz real quick before we move on to the pitchers. Where do you think he meets his match? Because if you think like he's going to be better in high A, he's a young 19 years old, and he dominated low A. Like, are we talking about this guy possibly meeting his match in AA at 19?
I think double will be where he finally kind of runs into some more challenges, which is
so this is a 19-year-old that we're looking to find challenges in AA.
It's like James Wood, right? Like James Wood cruised, and then right as he in his age 20 season, finding those struggles in AA. So maybe Laz finishes this year in high A, demolishes, gets a taste of AA at the end of the year, and then next year starts in double. And maybe the struggles happen in that taste and he recalibrates, or the struggles, maybe they don't even happen. Maybe he's that good. But I think just with the quality of secondaries and the secondary command there, that's where any little inefficiencies could get exposed. But it's been hard to really find anything that truly stands out as something that could get like exposed with him. Everything looks so good in the box right now. It's just so clean for a guy that's that big.
We're playing the what if game, but if this guy had Wood's defensive ability in a corner, not center, but like if he had his defensive ability in right field, let's say, and he had a hose and he can like track him fine. If he was an average right fielder and you were like, he can be a big league average right fielder, that's a top 10 prospect in baseball, possibly like down the line.
It's like, I think it's very Owen Casey at that point with like, and maybe with a little bit more like hitterish aspects to him. So yeah, like, 100%. Because Owen Casey's 20 for us. And I think he could be on a similar timeline, maybe even a little bit quicker. So yeah, I agree. And that's just really the one thing is the fact that he's a DH. It just
he's a DH.
Holds him back a little bit, but he's technically an outfielder until he gets to the bigs.
Holds him back a lot of bit for sure. Yeah. But like at the end of the day, if you hit, you're hit and you're going to make a lot of money.
Pitchers. There's so freaking many. Even before you and I hit the record button, we're like, oh, what about this guy? What about this guy? Mm-hmm. We're just going to disclaimer. Yes, we probably missed your favorite team's performer right now in the minor leagues.
Unless you're the White Sox. There are 10 White Sox in here.
There's so many pitchers, but there's a couple that are non-negotiable. Quinn Mathews is one of them at the St. Louis Cardinals. We'll go one at a time.
Yes.
Quinn Mathews. The second I told you that Quinn Mathews was throwing 90, well, first you didn't believe me, which I don't blame you. Why would you believe me? Hey, but remember Quinn Mathews? He's throwing 95 now. You're like, no, he's not.
Remember remember the fifth year shit slinger at Stanford that threw 240 pitches in a game?
Yeah, who they cared like it was such a not a big deal in the grand scheme for him. I mean, all of the defenders of him throwing the 156 pitches were. This is the last hurrah for him anyways. Who cares?
I guess it's not.
It's not. It's far from it. And the amazing thing is, one, I mean, after that output to then have the uptick in the offseason, I think maybe some people will say, oh, we'll see. The workload doesn't kill you. That's for another time. He's been awesome. And, once I finally showed you like screenshots and videos, you're like, what in the world? And I couldn't wait to share this with you because this was one of the most exciting surprises of the year, I'd say. And judging by your reaction, I'd venture to say you agreed because it's just fun to watch a pitchability lefty turn into a fuzz thrower. And that's exactly what he's been. He's been sitting 95 all year long. He's been running it up, touching the upper 90s. They kept him in a low A for whatever reason for a little bit. And now he's been in high A for a handful of starts, make that 7. He's got a 2.68 ERA, 2.44 FIP. Opponents are hitting $1.60. Since he's gotten up to high A, 58 strikeouts, 9 walks. What I love is he's still that command guy. But now all of a sudden, you've got a mid-90s fastball with good characteristics, the easy plus heater. You've got that slider playing with now because it's up several ticks and it looks gross. The changeup that's always been there for him is playing even better because you've got to be more geared up for a fastball that actually is fast. And then he mixes in this taste-breaking curveball. It's a big league 3-pitch mix with a quality fourth and good command. He's going to be on our top 100 list, when a couple of names graduate. And I don't know why they're working so slow with him because I'd be looking at this guy as someone that could actually get up to the big leagues and hold his own this year, which is why it's kind of surprising to me that they've been so methodical, considering that he's already stretched out. Can you believe, and it's the last I'll ramble and I'll kick it to you, 10 straight starts with at least 6 innings pitched? You don't see that in the minor leagues.
Ever. And I will tell you, he just got to Springfield yesterday. So he's going to make his AA debut Sunday.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you for catching that.
Yeah, you bet. So it's like, I mean, dude, you want to see somebody move quick. They feel very comfortable moving him quick.
Yeah.
It's crazy that he's just going to bunny hop Tink Hens.
Bunny hop
and Tink is Liberator. Awesome. Bunny hop Liberator. Yeah, as long as he's not a 7th inning guy, at 25 years old, he's going to bunny hop Libby.
And unfortunately, Roby hurt. Like, this was just a good find. How about just leapfrogging Jerpy? Yeah, like Jerpy's a guy that we thought he's been fine, but that's a guy that we thought was going to fly. Instead, it's Quinn Mathews. That's why this game is so wonderful. That's why this game is so wonderfully unpredictable and so much fun. Very excited to see how he does in double, and I expect it to continue, to be honest. Yeah. Matt Wilkinson, talk about surprises. Tugboat, Cleveland Guardians prospect. I keep blanking on what round he was picked in. It's the 11th, 10th.
Matt Wilkinson. By the way, stay tuned to the article on justbaseball.com. I had Brandon Anderson put together a little goodie for us. 10th round last year out of Central Arizona College.
103 strikeouts in 63 and a thirds innings. Yes, it's low A and high A, and he's a college arm, but it's not like he was a Power 5 arm. He was in JUCO, Central Arizona, as you mentioned. Made 2 starts on the Cape, stood out there, and immediately they're like, all right, this is an intriguing arm. I mean, I don't know if we've really seen anything like this from a 10th round guy. 43% strikeout rate, a 6% walk rate. I know it's low A, high A, but he's still kind of doing it in high A. The long ball has bit him a little bit more in high A.
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like at the end of the day. I don't know what it looks like at the highest level, but damn it, Tugboat deserves all the shine, and I'm glad he's getting it. And it's been fun. It's been fun to watch. They have tempered down his workload a little bit the last couple outings, which I think is good. And I think that's probably something to monitor here because he hasn't thrown a ton of innings, even in his collegiate career. But he's 21, man. Like, there might be more velo in there eventually. Who knows? Clearly, there's something going on there where just people don't see it well. And he's getting a lot of Ks despite operating mostly at 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, 63 and a third. 40 and a third innings in low A, 2 homers against him, and 40 and a third. 23 innings in high A. You mentioned the homer bug, 5 homers against him to this point. And that, is up the ERA and all in all. But like at the end of the day, he's getting by with his fastball at the top of the zone at 90. So guys are going to clip it like the levels that you climb. So You're probably waiting for a tick up. I think he's met the level that he's being challenged at in high A. And that's not an indictment on him. Quinn Mathews is 2 years older than him, almost 3 years older than him. So, we're talking about guys that were spanning the same levels, separated by 2 years of age, and they were identical when it came to pure success. And then Mathews was just amazing in high A, and Tugboat has kind of slowed down a little bit. But, man, I would say Quinn Mathews is more of the prospect, but Matt Wilkinson has been the second best pitcher in minor league baseball this year.
I agree. And it's not like he's been bad in high A. To your point, like it's 3.52 ERA. He's punched out 32 and 23 innings. He's got that run and ride, and it just works. And he's just going to have to learn how to, keep the ball in the yard, as you mentioned, and not let guys ambush. But I think gaining that tick or something will definitely help in a big way. Another guy that recently got promoted, and this was up to AAA. You brought him up like a week ago. You said, like, who is Brad Lord? The Nationals might have another intriguing arm. He just got brought up to AAA. He did get hit around a bit, but scattered him in his AAA debut. 5 innings, 9 hits, but 2 earned runs, no walks, 4 Ks. Anytime I see no walks in 5 innings in AAA, I'm impressed. Yeah. Just seems to create a funky angle, and hitters don't seem comfortable at all. It's more of a sinker-ish pitch, but it gets a lot more whiff than you'd expect. Then he'll sneak you up with a 4-seamer at 93. Just funky, and it works, and it's kind of hard to deny the results where in 79 and 2/3 innings, he's 9-1, a 1.4. I love that you included the record. He's a 1.47 ERA, a 1.11 WHIP, 9.3 Ks per 9, 3.3 walks per 9. I know you only include the record when it's like sick. Good. And 9-1 is sick.
Yeah, I like that. That is kind of how I go about it. Is that a bias thing?
No, I think I think it's just like, dude, if you're 11-1, I want to see it. Like you can not care, just read the ERA instead if you don't value it. And we don't value wins when we're looking at prospects, but for guys 11-1, like I'd rather know that information. It's cool,
right?
9-1 or whatever.
If it pisses you off, ignore it. But like if a guy, I'm also never going to account for a guy that's like 0-10 over the course of a minor league season, because so many times you're not going the 5 innings required to get a win. Like it's stupid.
And the bullpens can be heinous.
Bullpens are horrible. Yeah. So like I'm not worried about a terrible record. The only time that I want to highlight it is when it's a really good record. Now, if it's a really bad record in the big leagues, like Jordan Lyles and Zach Greinke both lost, I think, 17 games last year. That's a different beast. I'm like, yeah, this guy really stinks over the course of a given season. But, like Lord, 9-1. Drew Thorpe is what, like 20-2 or something in his minor league career. It's ridiculous what he's got going on there. So, I really have enjoyed kind of diving into who Lord is, and I get to see him this week. I think he throws tomorrow against.
I'm excited for your thoughts because you'd expect him to get more ground balls with the sinker that he has, and he gets a ton of ground balls with that sinker in particular. But then going to that elevated fastball too, it seems like he can change eye levels so well, and it seems like a pitchability guy that's kind of found a niche there that just hitters aren't used to.
Yeah. By the way, Josiah Gray looked really good.
I love that. Really? I saw a few pitches and a few plays, but love to hear that. Hopefully that's what the slow start can be attributed to at the big league level. Another guy, another Matthews, and one that's been equally as impressive and also saw a massive tick up. Zebby Matthews and the Minnesota Twins. I mean, another, I think, top of the list of breakout guys this year. He's 24, but he's quickly tracking like a top 100 guy as well. And a guy that, again, if they needed an arm, could get up there sooner rather than later because the command is so absurd. Remember, he was the dude that started the year with 34 1/3 consecutive without giving up a walk. 43 strikeouts and 0 walks is outrageous. Like, it's just absolutely outrageous. And since he's got brought up to Double-A, the command is really backed up, Jack. It's been really, really staggering to see since he got up to Double-A. That the walk rate has increased to 2%. In Double-A. He's walked 3 40 2/3 innings. So, that is a little concerning.
Yeah, I will say, fortunately, though, the ERA has dropped from a way too high 1.59 to an adequate 1.55.
Yeah, that's right. The threshold is like 157. It's good. That's a good
157. So, it's great that his season numbers between high A and double are just under that and 156. Who in their right mind puts up a whip at 0.71 in the minor leagues?
And now doing that in the Texas League?
Like, it would be, dude, it would be something if he wasn't walking anybody, but he was K'ing like 7 per 9 and he was just pitching the contact. He's K'ing 11 per 9. He's not allowing base hits. He's not allowing home runs. And he's a 0.71 whip is just hard to wrap my brain around.
A 1% walk rate. And as you mentioned, no one homers on him either. Usually those strike throwers that are all around the zone, right? It's a 71% strike rate. It's 60% of the pitches that he throws are in the zone. So you think everyone's in swing mode. You can clip some homers. No, because he has a 47% ground ball rate too. And he's only allowed 2 homers. And if you look at the home runs, one of them was a cheapie. It was an 89-mile-an-hour fly ball that went 329 feet. So really, he's only allowed 1 real home run, and it was Daniel Susak that hit him 416 feet to dead center. Congrats. That was 1 real home run, and that was at the Double-A level. So he has been, I think, easily the most remarkable pitcher in the minor leagues for multiple reasons. I just think when you combine the whole story together there, it's absolutely insane. And again, another guy that a couple names graduate, top 100 arm, or top 100 prospect, no doubt about it.
If I did the math right, I think opponents are hitting $183 against him. So 1% walk rate and opponents are hitting 183 against him.
I have 184.
Oh, he sucks.
Again, cooked. It's right my threshold right there. Yeah, craziness. Flying through some of the other names. I know Noah Schultz, statistically not as insane from a run prevention standpoint, but when you look at what he's doing here, and I think you got an ERA sometimes needs to be cast aside a bit because, especially at the lower levels, because there's so many balls that should be probably called errors that aren't, and just things that happen. Between high A and Double-A, White Sox pitching prospect, first round pick, 12 starts. They're obviously careful with the innings, but 47 innings, 3.06 ERA, but a 0.83 whip, which is as good as any of the names that we're going to talk about here. Not named Zebby Matthews. More than 12 Ks per 9, and remarkably for a 6'7" lefty, less than 2 walks per 9, 1.5. Schultz has been spectacular.
He was impossible to leave off of this, in my opinion, at least. And, I know that there are a ton of guys that are totally knocking on the door of this. And you brought up Brandon Sproat, and that makes total sense. I'm here for it, and he's throwing more innings than Schultz. But Schultz is so young. But we'll play the what would he be in college game. He would be a sophomore in college. And in high A and Double-A, he's not walking anyone. He's punching out a shit ton of guys. And the whip's, again, at 0.83. I know he's being heavily protected, but at the end of the day, man, it's a 6'7" left-hander that's running it up to 99 miles an hour.
I actually see him listed at like 6. Is he like 6'9" now?
Maybe. He's a 6'9" left-hander that is ripping it at 99.
Yep.
Spinning the crap out of a couple breaking balls and not missing the strike zone at all. He's dominant. Like, this is as close to if the Phillies protected Painter. Like, Painter was viewed as like the best pitching prospect in the game because he was cut loose at 19 years old. If they cut Schultz loose, I mean, we could be talking about this guy as like the best pitching prospect of the game at this point. And I think when we get to graduations, he's quickly ascending. And he's the best young pitching prospect in the game. I think that's become clear.
Oh, I mean, when you look at the projection, what he's already doing, the command combined with the stuff just blows my mind. He's also holding opponents to 183 batting average, which is nuts. 35% K rate, 4% walk rate's wild. The pair of banging breaking balls are crazy, but he also has mixed in some good changeups. It's not there consistency wise. He's still throwing it for a strike about 57% of the time, but he's mixing in a few changeups to start that look pretty good. So if you got a 4-pitch mix with this delivery as a 6'9" lefty, like, look out. He's as high upside as anyone you're going to find, outside of the top guys. And I think he's right up there in terms of upside, right there with Painter and Job when you see what he can already do and what might still be in there. Logan Evans. So he was a weird one because he's been moved to the bullpen. That is apparently in an effort to preserve his workload in the idea that he might come up later in the year and help the Mariners at the highest level, which is a testament to how good Logan Evans has been in that Mariner system. Just received an aggressive assignment, I think, with how he looked in spring training. Goes straight to Double-A after really only throwing a few innings in Low-A last year after getting drafted. And right away was just very impressive. Kept runs off the board. Nothing jumps off the page with him. He's 6'5". He gets a good amount of ground balls. That sinker just seems like no one can barrel that thing. And he kind of kitchen sinks you with the sinker, the slider, a four-seamer, a curve, a cutter, a change, and it just keeps hitters off balance. And he's held opponents to a $190 batting average this year. He's not going to get a ton of strikeouts, but he gets enough. And you combine a strikeout rate above 20% with a ground ball rate above 50%, you got a really good chance of succeeding. Only allowing 3 home runs this year, fully pitching in the Texas League is really impressive. And the other part about it, I think that stands out is like this guy's such a natural pitcher that since they moved him to the bullpen, sometimes guys wouldn't respond great to that, especially guys that are starters. He's been really damn good in his like 1-inning spurts as well. Had several hitless outings and several scoreless outings out of the bullpen. Like, he just knows how to pitch.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's been like Swiss Army knife. We initially had him as a reliever because like we were just trying to backdoor our way into like making him on this team, and who knows. And I know the strikeout numbers are not gaudy and the walk numbers are not Zebby Matthews level, but at the end of the day, like, you got a $1.36, you got a $1.36. It's Brad Lord 2.0, but I think it's more legit than Brad Lord at this point.
100%. So many honorable mentions. We'll fly through them, and then just whoever you want to kind of talk about, we'll just talk about a couple of them. Sorry if we don't get to some of the others, but I think almost all of these guys we have discussed in recent episodes. But honorable mentions include Ian Seymour of the Rays, Trevor Martin of the Rays, who just continues to put together crazy starts, Brandon Sproat of the Mets, one of the biggest climbers in our top 100 update, Drew Thorpe, who's now in the big leagues with the White Sox, Kai Bush, who has looked pretty good with the White Sox, but we did talk about maybe selling high on him, Mason Adams with the White Sox. I think kind of cut from a similar cloth to Logan Evans, where nothing jumps off the page, but gets ground balls, mix and match, kitchen sink, and he'll get you out. David Festa, who we just talked about, got called up with the Twins. Jonah Tong, the induced vertical break king with the Mets, who's been doing pretty well in high A. Caden Dana with the Angels, who we also talked about on the last episode, buy low, sell high, but 20 years old in Double-A, still putting up great numbers. Austin Peterson in Cleveland, I'll be honest, don't have a ton on him. I got to do some more diving into what Peterson's been doing. I know you can add a little bit there. Jaden Ham, another IVB king with Detroit, who has just been lights out. Winston Santos with the Rangers, who has just recently gotten promoted to Double-A and has been great. And then Spencer Giesting, who you brought up last episode, as a guy that you're jokingly, but like not totally jokingly excited about because stuff is pretty subdued, but gets out. Kind of cut from the You Mean Lin cloth and just continues to look really solid.
The only guy that I want to add some color on is Austin Peterson, 24-year-old, and Peterson has been in high A all year. But this is a guy that was a 9th-round pick in 2022 at a UConn. He started at Purdue, then went to UConn. And this year, he had a 4.5 ERA in low A last year at 23 years old, where he was a year and a half older than everybody else. And again, like, you know, he's not a prospect by any stretch. He's older than the league average pitcher in the Midwest League. But this guy in 14 starts has a 2.4 and in 85 innings, 87 punch-outs and 6 walks. And he's 6'6", 230. I don't know what's going on there, but, like, he's got a ton of success for the team that just won the Midwest League's first half.
I mean, anytime the Guardians have some, like, one of these arms that just kind of pops up, like, I start to just kind of buy into it. You just kind of feel like they're going to keep doing it. I will say sometimes they flame out a little bit, but Peterson being 6'6" and just, I don't know, having this pitchability with that 27% K rate, 2% walk rate, feel for 3 secondaries to the degree that he's landing a slider, a changeup, and a curveball, all for a strike at more than a 73% clip. Like something's there. There might just be enough there for him to have a big league role. Yeah. Wrapping up with relief pitchers. Couple fun ones. And you know, you could have maybe thrown a Landon Sims in there. I don't know where he stacks up like statistically, but he's one of the more traditional closers in the minor leagues. But at the same time, like, just the numbers haven't been there. So it's Zach Agnos of the Rockies and it's Frankie Scalzo Jr. of the Cubs. What do you got on these guys?
So Zach Agnos with the Rockies is a guy that, like, was really good last year in low A as an older guy. And, you know, both these guys, like, I don't know how fully valid it is. Like Scalzo, for example. I saw Scalzo's AAA debut. And I think Hunter Biggie in that Iowa bullpen is much, much better. I think that Michael Arias in that Iowa bullpen has much, much more prospect intrigue. But at the end of the day, like, Orion Kerkering pops up out of nowhere. Now, Orion Kerkering is throwing 99 with a slider from hell, and it's crazy. Scalzo is not that, and Scalzo's not punching out the world like Kerkering was. Zach Agnos is a guy that, like, kind of took me by surprise. 23-year-old, 10th round pick of the Rockies in 22 at East Carolina. So last year, 47 appearances in low A as a 22-year-old. 2.06 ERA. 52 and a third. He punched out 12 per 9. He walked 2 per 9. Then this year rolls around. 21 appearances, 24 and 2/3 innings. He's K'd 30 and walked 2. I look at relievers that are not afraid to pound the strike zone against hitters that they are better than at the lower levels of the minor leagues. And if that also results in Ks, I can kind of buy what you're doing, and I think that you could fast track it.
It's a good recipe. It's a good recipe. Like, slider's been disgusting too for him.
Has it? And, like, I mean, the numbers at least indicate that he's been able to land it at a very high clip.
75%.
75%. Okay, so, like, what's he doing in Fresno? Like, let's get him to Hartford, please. Like, let's just figure this out. And again, in Colorado's system, you're pretty much working with 3 affiliates instead of 4. Like, you're skipping Albuquerque with all your arms. Yep. So, like, why can't this guy give you innings out of the bullpen when Anthony Molina is sitting there with an ERA at like 60 and you're just shielding him so he doesn't get returned? Like, the Rockies, I love him. I love you. It just doesn't make any sense that Zach Agnos is doing this in high A and he's still in high A.
8 consecutive appearances, no runs, 3 hits, no walks, no hit batsman, 9 Ks in high A. Just, like, doesn't make any sense. No one has reached base in, I think, like, 6 consecutive appearances for him against him, period. So,
what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, it beats me. I mean, we're talking about a team that just recently called a guy up, didn't pitch him, and then DFA'd him, and he got claimed by the Marlins. So, like, I mean, it's the Rockies. Like, it just never fails to amaze me.
Bizarro. Only other one is Frankie Scalzo, 22 appearances, no earned runs yet. 1 unearned run in 27 1/3. Listen, like, I don't necessarily buy that he's got, you know, major league stuff after watching him a couple times, but at the end of the day, if you have an ERA at 0 halfway through a minor league season where you haven't been hurt at all, tip of the cap to you, man.
Yeah, I mean, if 101 people have come to the plate against you and they're slashing a combined 129, 190, 140. You got to get some recognition. Like you deserve some recognition. So that's exactly what Scalzo gets here. And he got promoted up to AAA, made his AAA debut against Indy.
Yeah, last week
ago. Yeah. So, and pitched a scoreless inning in a third, 1 1/3, no runs, 1K. So maybe this guy will just keep climbing his way up and getting outs, and just kind of, you can't really explain it. Nothing jumps off the page, and he just continues to get weak contact. He seems like he could be one of those guys. Great mustache as well.
Great mustache.
Support a good mustache. That'll do it for this episode. Feel free to let us know in the YouTube comments who you thought maybe could have cracked the list, or who could have be some other honorable mentions, guys that you're excited about, or who you think might be able to make that list on the second half of the season as we get into that part of things. And look out for Guardians top prospects on Friday, and then a fun Trey Morgan conversation next week, which another guy that's really been performing, obviously. So it'll be fun to catch up with him. As always, thank you for listening. Look forward to talking prospects with you on Friday.